Hey, what's up, guys? Are you like me and you don't necessarily like spending a whole lot of money on magic? Because things like Mana Crypt and Jeweled Lotus getting banned kind of really hurt my soul there. So I kind of joined the dark side and started proxying my cards. So let's go ahead and get into the process I use to making proxies. I have about like a couple different methods and things you can maybe add to improve your quality of the proxies you print at home. So yeah, let's check it out. Okay, so the first website we actually are going to need is some kind of deck building website. I like to use Moxfield, and this is the deck that I created using the Jolly Green Balloon Man, Jolly Green, Jolly Balloon Man. And I actually don't need to mean the whole deck since I already done it. I actually just have to replace a few cards I was thinking about, which I put in the sideboard and considering. So let's go ahead and grab those cards. We're gonna copy and paste them, and then we're gonna bring them to this website. This is MTG Print, I believe .net, and all you have to do is copy and paste. And there's a few things you need to click, like crop marks, cut lines, black corners, and then make sure you pick the correct letter size. Um, for me, I use A4, and you can also use the drop down menus to pick the correct art or type of borders you want to use. So you can go ahead and just click around there, see whatever you want to use. And yeah, you got definitely a couple of options. So once you picked out all the art, you can pretty much double check everything and hit print. It's going to go ahead and save it in your downloads, and that's it. You can go ahead and open it up and double check, run it through your printer, and this is how it's going to look. Pretty much ready to go. So once you got it all printed out, just like this, you could go ahead and double check the cards, make sure that they fit perfectly, just like I'm about to show. So let's see. Yep, perfect. If you have any problems, make sure you check the scaling. Make sure it's at 100%. And pretty much go ahead and grab your scissors and we're ready to cut. Okay, so we're ready to cut our first card. We're going to go ahead and cut this village bell ringer. And all you got to do is just basically cut along the borders. Cut as best as straight as possible as you can. Me personally, I don't actually like using scissors. I'm only doing it for the demonstration purposes. But if it works for you, then go ahead and use some scissors. I also see people using those guillotine paper cutters. Those work pretty well. Uh, but also, if you noticed, I picked uh, these arts with the black borders, the kind of the original frames, mainly because I like to use black markers to help clean up the edges. And when you use full arts, using the black marker tends to bleed into the actual sheets. So I like the black borders because it comes out a little cleaner. But look at that, it's pretty clean, pretty even. So let's go ahead and test fit it inside a sleeve. These sleeves actually are promotional. They came out during, I believe, the summer campaign. And man, I'm always wondering why Japan always gets the cool promos. I mean, I'm lucky I'm here, but you'd think America would get a couple of, like, specialty things like this as well, but I don't know. So we're gonna go ahead and test fit it, and fits pretty nice. It is a little uneven, but I just kind of like quickly did this. But the next thing I'm gonna show you is using an inner sleeve, and that will help keep the card and the printed sheet together perfectly within the sleeve, and I believe that helps with the shuffle feel and keeping everything consistent. So if you got some inner sleeves or are willing to invest in some inner sleeves as well, just make sure you cut the card well enough to fit in the inner sleeves. Luckily, it was okay for me, but you might run into that issue where it could be a little too thick. So that's something you might have to be aware of. But once you kind of get them through, they really line up well, and inner sleeves can really help out in this process. And you could just stop there and cut out all the cards. Probably only take you like 15 minutes to do, sleeve everything up, and another 5, and you're ready to rock. But I do want to show you a method that's a little more involved, and I feel does make the cards a little bit better. So with this method, we're actually going to use a little bit more tools, such as an Exacto knife, a metal ruler, and a cutting mat. I feel like this is a little bit more precise when cutting out the sheets. So what we're gonna do here is line up the ruler. Uh, Pretty much you wanna try and, it's a little hard to see because the ruler is not see-through, but like you can kind of line it up against the black border evenly, and then just take your time cutting with the Exacto knife because it is sharp. You don't really have to press in too much because the blade will pretty much do all the work for you. It is gonna take a while to get the correct feel for it, but with simple paper, it's really not hard to cut at all. Uh, yeah, so just go ahead and cut out a few cards if you have to. Maybe just do some test cuts at first just to get the feel for it, and then eventually you'll be able to just cut it out pretty easily. I've been doing this for a while now, so I kind of got the feel for it, and it gets easier, especially if you have a metal ruler that has a foam bottom, so just so it doesn't move or anything like that. But yeah, pretty much comes out very clean. Before we get to the next step, I actually just want to show a little bit of what I've been doing with these custom cards. So this is that Jolly Balloon Man deck, and here's my custom Junji Ito card. I do have to redo it because I did miss the keyword haste, but it's easily fixable. I could always redo it. Then here's some of the balloon copy tokens that I've made. There's no real official card for it, but I figured it works with the theme of the custom card. And here is the end product of what I do. So I actually glue the sheets onto the cards themselves, and I feel like it makes them pretty more legit, as you can see. I also put black markers around the, or I use a black marker around the border to give it a cleaner finish, in case there's any like little markings or anything like that. I think the overall product just comes out very clean. As you can see, it's just well put together, and I feel like they would last a lot longer too. So let me go ahead and show you how to do this. Moving on to step 2, we're going to need some scrap paper to lay over the mat, a glue stick, also our black marker to help with the edge, and this roller thing I found. Don't know exactly where to get it. I don't even know how I got it, but yeah, this is what I use, as well as a little card to help with the roller. So now we're going to get our sheet as well as a bolt common, and you can go ahead and start gluing it. I tend to put quite a few layers of glue, as you notice, because I noticed over time that if I put one thin layer, that it tends to dry out pretty quickly and doesn't really stick that well to the card. So I'll just kind of go over it a few times. Just be careful because I sometimes tend to fold and crease the card or the sheet. So just be careful when gluing it. So next we're gonna go ahead and try and line up our bulk common, and this takes a little bit of practice. I use the long side and give it about like a millimeter or so of extra trim, uh, just so I have the edge or wiggle room. Because we're gonna trim all this stuff off anyway, and I don't know if you could see it, but I'm kind of like moving the card as well as the sheet to kind of line it up perfectly because it hasn't fully set just yet. So you can kind of like move it into where it needs to be, if that makes sense. Then just go ahead and roll it or use whatever, maybe a book to flatten it out. Yeah, just so it gets a complete adhesion. And then you should be good to go. And then we'll move on to the next step. And look at that, pretty good. This part that we're going to get into takes a little bit of practice, so really be careful. But basically, we're going to take the Exacto knife and trim off all that extra paper. You see that I'm not using the ruler for this step is because I'm actually using the card itself as a guide, and just like I said, these knives or the blade is very sharp, so really you just have to let the blade do all the work and just try not to cut into the card, because I've done that many times, but it'll come out clean, and you'll notice you just get left with these little borders here. And I'm going to show you this tool that I use to clean it up. So this is a corner rounder, I believe. You can find on Amazon. They have different sizes, but I'm going to use a small, which is actually a 3 millimeter. Magic cards use 3.5, and it's pretty hard to find that exact size. So 3 millimeter works perfectly fine, especially just for our purposes. It's close enough, and still gives that clean edge. So look at that, we're pretty much ready to go. just kind of roll it again to, flatten everything out. But now we're going to go ahead and go over with the black marker just to give that final touch. And look how clean this is. You don't have to do this step. I just do it because, like I said, if you cut into the card, sometimes it'll leave little marks. So I just want to keep everything as clean as possible. And, you just, that extra little step, I feel that'll make your work look a lot cleaner. So this is the recent tech that I just found. It's a light board that people use for tracing, for drawing, and man, does this help out my process so much more. You can see that the borders are visible from the other when you flip the page over, so it's way easier to line up cards. So I'm giving it a shot right now. I'll put a little piece of scrap paper underneath so I don't get glue on the actual board itself. I do gotta find a better method of securing it because I kind of bent that owl card right there. But if you can see, it's actually super easy for me to line up the cards, and this kind of cuts my whole process in half. It used to take me like 2 hours to do a whole EDH deck, but now with this, I don't have to cut out each individual card and waste the time lining them up when I could just do one full sheet, gluing and lining up, and then the trimming. So probably I can knock out a whole deck in like an hour. And basically, I just got to go over with the Exacto knife and cut off all the excess, which I'm pretty fast at nowadays. So that's pretty much it. Oh, and then I wanted to mention, if you don't have I keep calling it a corner rounder, you can just try and use your Exacto knife to cut them. It might not be perfect at first, but I used to do it before I actually had that product, and yeah, it still comes out nice just as long as you practice on the edges and the corners. And we'll go back in with our black marker just to clean everything up, and everything came out pretty nice. And there you go. There's the finished product. So I think I'm going to keep doing this method. I just want to use it to pretty much make jank decks, or if I have to make some kind of super high powered deck that I want to try out. But for the most part, yeah, it just kind of makes me feel like all my decks or deck creations is limitless. I can kind of make whatever I want now. I'm not limited by budget. It's more about the creativity, and of course, I don't want to make super salty decks. Decks I just want to have fun, playing. But we'll see. Who knows what I'm gonna make next? So let me know what you think of this method. So yeah, that was it. Pretty much that's how I make my printed proxies. I also like making a whole bunch of other magic related crafts and whatnot. Like you guys saw my custom tokens and my custom commanders. If you like, I do want to make a video for those probably sometime in the future, or some of the other crafts and hobbies I do. I do currently live in Japan, and if you're interested in checking out how Magic the Gathering is out here in Japan, specifically the Tokyo area, just let me know, and I'll probably make some more videos on stuff like that as well.